Okay, let's be absolutely clear from the start. We are not here to discuss ancient history. If you're looking for a story about, men in togas debating philosophy, you need to turn this off.
Right now.
We are here to conduct a technical analysis of a massive system failure. We're looking at the logs of a network ledger war.
And this war took place in Athens, 594 BCE.
But the stakes... let's be clear about the stakes. This wasn't some political disagreement.
No, this was a total system crash. The network was facing, and I mean this literally, total hardware destruction.
Exactly. The history books, the ones that don't get system architecture, they call it a political crisis. We're going to define it correctly. It was a deadlock.
A complete seizure.
The entire operating system just seized.
It was a scenario where the inequality had gotten so extreme and the source code so corrupted that society, the OS, could no longer process a single transaction without it resulting in violence.
The ledger was broken.
Completely broken. Civil war wasn't a risk. It was the only output the system could generate anymore.
And into this crash steps a figure named Solon. History calls him a lawmaker, a poet.
We have a different designation.
We're calling him the world's first system administrator. His mission wasn't to pass a bill. He was given absolute authority to execute a hard reset on a corrupted national ledger.
He is the second guardian in our 5,000-year chronicle of wealth survival. And he knew something that, frankly, modern central bankers have forgotten.
Which is?
You cannot patch a system that is fundamentally based on a corrupted contract. You have to reboot it.
That is the lens for this deep dive. We're analyzing the survival of wealth through the Seisachtheia protocol. We're going to look at the private key of human existence.
And we're going to ask you, the listener, a very uncomfortable question. Are you a user of the network, or are you the collateral?
So let's open the logs from before the crash. To understand the failure, we need to understand the network topology.
Yes.
And you have this specific class of node called the hectomeroi.
The six-parters.
Right. And this wasn't just a nickname. This was a hard-coded status in the economic layer. These were farmers, the base layer nodes of the entire economy.
And they were locked in.
Locked into a smart contract where they had to yield 1/6 of their produce to creditors, the aristocrats, forever.
In perpetuity. Now stop and look at the math on that. To us, a 16% tax rate sounds almost like a dream. But you have to run the numbers on the gas fees.
Let's unpack that analogy. In this context, the gas fee is the caloric maintenance cost of the node.
It's the food the farmer needs to eat to stay alive. The seed grain for the next season. These are fixed costs.
You can't negotiate with them.
Exactly. The cost to run the hardware, the human body, is absolute. It doesn't scale down. But the output, the harvest, is totally variable. One bad season, one drought.
And your output drops. But that 1/6 deduction, it always comes off the top. The contract doesn't care about the node's survival.
It's a malicious smart contract. If the harvest is poor, the gas fees exceed the block reward. The maintenance cost of the node is higher than its productivity after the aristocrat takes his cut.
So it's a mathematical impossibility for the farmer to survive.
Yes. The node becomes incapable of autonomous operation.
And this is where the ledger becomes predatory. Because in a normal system, a failed business declares bankruptcy. You liquidate the assets. But here, the assets weren't just the land.
This is the data corruption. This is the horror of the pre-Solonian network. The collateral was the body.
If you couldn't pay the grain, you didn't just lose the farm.
You became a ledger entry, a debt slave.
A disposable asset.
A human being, an independent economic agent, was transformed into a line item on a centralized ledger. The system converted user to inventory.
And the data shows this wasn't an edge case. We're talking about nearly 1/6 of the entire citizen population either in this status or right on the edge.
Think about that. Think about the processing power. That's a huge percentage of your network that is effectively offline. They're not innovating, not trading, not consuming.
They are just servicing legacy debt data.
Which created a network partition. 2 hostile nodes. You had the aristocratic node, holding all the assets, running on private code in their heads, centralized servers.
And then the plebeian mode, enslaved, with zero incentive to participate.
And when a node has zero incentive, it turns malicious. They were plotting physical conflict, the economy halted, the OS of Athens was deadlocked, paying for the past.
So the system has crashed. The aristocrats are terrified. They know the hardware destruction, civil war is coming for them. They know they're about to get wiped out.
So they call in Solon, they give him the root password.
They were expecting a bailout.
Of course. A patch, Maybe print some money, suppress the riots.
But Solon doesn't offer a patch. He enters the war room and initiates a forced data initialization.
The Seisachtheia.
The shaking off of burdens. It sounds so poetic, almost gentle. But practically, what did he do? This wasn't a speech.
No. He went to the fields. You have to visualize the user interface here. The fields of Athens were dotted with stone pillars. They were called horoi.
The offline ledgers.
Exactly. If a farm was mortgaged, a stone was planted on the land, it was the physical record of the liability, the hard drive storing the debt.
It's Solon.
He went out and physically ripped them out of the ground.
He famously said he freed the Black Earth.
He deleted the transaction logs. That's what it means. By removing those stones, he invalidated the corrupted history. He established a data barrier. He said, the past debt data no longer governs current activity.
That is radical. Imagine a central banker today walking into a server room and taking a giant magnet to the mortgage data hard drives.
That's exactly what it was. He reverted the entire state of Athens to the Genesis block. He cleared the cache. He looked at the aristocrats and said, your ledger is invalid. We're starting over.
But, and this is critical, hard reset only works if you patch the bug that caused the crash in the first place.
Right.
If he just deleted the debt but left the rules the same, they'd all be back in debt within a few harvest cycles.
Exactly. The bug wasn't the debt itself. The bug was what could be collateralized.
And this brings us to the climax of the protocol, the retrieval of the private key.
Yes.
Solon didn't just delete debt. He changed the code. He banned the use of the human body as collateral, period.
He permanently removed the human body from the domain of economic ledger entries. He hard-coded a new rule. The physical self is inviolable. It cannot be leveraged.
Let's unpack the strategic implication of that. Before Solon, your body was just another asset class. It was liquidity. You could leverage your own freedom to get a loan.
Which sounds like freedom of contract, right? A libertarian might argue, why can't I sell myself?
But Solon saw the end game.
He realized that if you allow a node to sell its own ability to process transactions, the network eventually collapses into centralization. If I can own you, I own your output forever.
It's the core concept of self-sovereignty.
Let me ask you this, and I want you, the listener, to really think about this. Are you holding a debt certificate, or are you holding your own private key?
That is the defining question of this entire deep dive.
Because that's what Solon did. He gave every citizen the private key to their own existence. He said no third party, no creditor, no central authority could ever manipulate the citizen as an asset again.
Even if you go bankrupt, you retain that key.
You can fail economically without failing existentially. It's asset ownership without a trusted third party. You don't need the aristocrat's permission to exist.
And then he went even further with the node repatriation.
Oh, this is incredible. There were Athenians who'd been sold into slavery abroad. The system had literally exported them. Solon used public funds to buy them back.
He spent the treasury to reacquire lost nodes.
He understood that a network is only as secure as its validator count. He brought them back, restored their citizenship, restored their private keys, and refilled the system with healthy, debt-free nodes.
That wasn't charity.
No, he was enhancing network security.
If you have too few nodes, the system is vulnerable to attack. By bringing them back, he decentralized power again. He flooded the network with independent validators.
A security upgrade disguised as a humanitarian mission.
So he cleans the ledger, he secures the nodes, but the operating system is still running on old code, specifically the currency protocol.
The Aeginetan standard.
Right. Athens was using the coin standard from Aegina, a rival island, a maritime power.
And it was a heavy coin, about 70 to 73 drachmae per mina. But the weight wasn't the real problem. It was about who owned the protocol.
By using their standard, Athens was just a dependent node.
They were a layer 2 to Aegina's layer 1.
Bro, Solon executes a hard fork. He switches the entire economy to the Euboean standard.
A massive scalability upgrade. The new standard was lighter, 100 new drachmae to the mina versus 73 old ones.
Okay, why does that math matter? Someone listening might think, who cares about the weight of a silver coin?
Velocity. It's about transaction speed and divisibility. Lighter units meant more liquidity, you could make smaller transactions. But the real key was network interoperability.
The API connections.
Exactly. The Euboean standard was used by Corinth, by Chalcidice, by the major trade networks in Asia Minor. By switching protocols, Solon unplugged Athens from the closed loop of Aegina.
And plugged them into the global API.
Suddenly, they can export their primary scalable asset olive oil to the entire Mediterranean network. frictionlessly.
They optimized for export, and they started minting their own coin, the tetradrachm.
The famous owl of Athens, using silver from their own Laurian mines.
Monetary sovereignty. They stopped relying on external protocols for their store of value. They began verifying their own blocks.
Imagine if a country today just ditched the SWIFT network and launched its own protocol that instantly connected to all its major trading partners. It was an economic explosion.
There's one last piece to this architecture. You can't have a decentralized system if the code is hidden. Before Solon, the laws were unwritten.
Private code. Centralized servers. They were in the heads of the aristocrats.
So if I'm an aristocrat, I can just query my own memory and tell you, oh, actually, the law says you owe me double.
And you couldn't verify it. The user interface didn't exist for the common person.
So Solon built the axons?
The hardware. These were giant four-sided wooden beams that rotated on an axis. He inscribed the new laws on them and put them in the agora, the public square.
So anyone could just walk up and turn the beam.
Physically turn the beam to verify the code. This is open source governance. This is the first transparent public ledger.
It removed the trust requirement. You didn't have to trust the aristocrat to tell you the law. You could verify it yourself.
It established a consensus algorithm. The law was no longer what a powerful person said it was. The law was what was written on the block on the axon. No one could arbitrarily modify the rules because the ledger was public.
This is the rule of law, but viewed as a technological implementation. And that stability, that trustlessness, is what allowed Athens to boom.
It wasn't just democracy. It was a superior operating system. It's the Lindy effect.
The idea that the longer something survives, the longer it's likely to continue to survive.
Solon's code, this debt-free system philosophy, it became the bedrock of Western civilization for 2,600 years. That gives it a 99% Lindy score. This isn't just a nice idea, it is a proven survival mechanism.
But Solon left a warning.
He did. His message was crystal clear. When debt-based systems fail, a reset is inevitable. You cannot leverage the future infinitely.
And we are seeing that now. Modern finance is entirely debt-based. Money is issued as a liability.
We have modern hectomoroi. Look around you. People pledging their future labor for 30, 40 years just to service the interest on their own existence. Student loans, mortgages, national debt.
The gas fees of modern life are starting to exceed the productivity of the average node.
And if you reject the reset, if you try to hold on to the corrupted ledger,
you get physical conflict, you get the pre-Solonian state, civil war, tyranny, system destruction.
The system will reset, whether you want it to or not. The only variable is how much violence is required to do it.
So what's the digital response? If Solon was the analog version, what's the digital implementation?
It's Bitcoin.
Connect that for us, because people hear Bitcoin and they just think price goes up. We're talking about structure.
Bitcoin is the debt-free asset. It is the only asset in the digital world that is not someone else's liability. It's issued via proof of work, not proof of credit.
It's the private key.
It is the literal implementation of the Solonian private key. It guarantees asset ownership without a trusted third party. It prevents the ledger from being corrupted by toxic debt data.
Solon had to physically rip stones out of the earth to protect the ledger.
Bitcoin does it with math, but the philosophy is identical.
It's about ensuring the ledger, the record of who owns what, cannot be manipulated by a central administrator trying to save their own skin.
Solon took the power of life and death away from creditors. Bitcoin takes the power of value dilution and confiscation away from central banks. It's the same war, different technology.
Solon gave them the axons to verify the law.
Bitcoin gives us the blockchain to verify the supply.
So Solon wasn't a politician, he was a system engineer.
Who saved the state network. He diagnosed the deadlock, he saw that the gas fees of the aristocracy were killing the network, and he pressed the button.
Let's bring this home for the listener. We've analyzed the history, but this is a strategy session. Based on the Solon protocol, what is the move?
It's a three-point strategy. If you want to survive a ledger war, you follow the architect's rules. Number 1, verify the integrity of your ledger. Do not trust opaque systems. If you can't see the code, if you can't turn the axon yourself, you are the yield. You are the hectomoroi.
Point 2.
Prioritize self-sovereignty over debt-based promises. Secure your private key. In 594 BCE, that meant ensuring your body couldn't be seized. Today, it means holding assets that are true bearer instruments. Assets that don't rely on a counterparty's permission to exist.
And number 3.
Move your wealth to transparent open source protocols. Escape the deadlock. Solon moved Athens to the Euboean standard to plug into a wider, freer network. You need to do the same. Get off the closed loop.
The forced reset button was pressed 2,600 years ago to save a collapsing network.
And we are witnessing the digital Seisachtheia today.
The question you have to ask yourself is simple. Which side of the hard fork will your assets be on?
The debt-based legacy chain or the open-source validated chain?
That's the deep dive. Verify your keys. We'll see you on the next block.